Okay, so are you ready to dive in?
Always.
All right, let's do it. Today we're tackling occupational therapist interview prep. And wow, we've got some seriously in-depth resources from RoleCatcher.
We do.
Career guides, sample interview questions, even a peek into their AI tools.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Our mission is to help you walk into that interview not just prepared, but seriously radiating confidence.
Passion.
Yeah.
Anyone can memorize answers, but really blowing those interviewers away means you need to show them you get it. Like you understand what being an OT is all about.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. What does it actually mean to get it as an OT?
Well, I think a good place to start is this idea of meaningful activities. I'm seeing it everywhere in these RoleCatcher guides, and it feels like it's really at the core of what sets OT apart.
You're right. Keeps popping up. So let's unpack it. What's so meaningful about these activities?
Think about it. After an illness, an injury, even something like displacement as a refugee, people can lose the ability to do the things that give them joy, purpose, even their sense of self.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see what you mean.
And that's where OTs come in. They help bridge that gap.
So it's not just about physical function, it's about the whole person.
Exactly. And that's something you really want to get across in your interviews. Interviewers aren't just looking for someone who can check off boxes on a skills list. They're looking for someone who gets that bigger picture, someone who's genuinely excited about how OT can transform lives.
Okay, so how do we convey that in an interview?
It all starts with preparation. And thankfully, RoleCatcher has over 120,000 interview questions in their database.
120,000? That's a lot. Where do we even begin?
Well, that's where their AI comes in, which we'll definitely talk about later. But first, let's focus on some of the common questions that tend to trip people up. I'm noticing a lot of them have to do with adaptability.
Oh yeah, you're right. Adapting treatment for different patients working in different settings. Even navigating ethical dilemmas, which honestly sounds a bit intimidating.
It can be, but that's why it's so important to think through these scenarios beforehand. Let's start with a classic. What inspired you to become an occupational therapist? It seems simple enough, but it's your chance to set the tone. Show them your passion.
Right. It's not just a story. It's about conveying that spark, that moment when you realized, this is it. This is what I'm meant to do.
Exactly. And to really stand out, try weaving in specific details about OT that resonate with you. Did a personal experience lead you here? Is there a patient population you're particularly drawn to? Maybe you're fascinated by the role of technology in therapy? Bring those details to life.
So instead of saying, I like helping people, I might say, I was inspired by seeing how OTs are using virtual reality to help stroke survivors regain motor skills. The way technology and compassion come together really spoke to me.
Perfect. You've taken a generic answer and made it personal and specific. You've even hinted that you're aware of industry trends.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about this one? Can you describe a time when you had to adapt your treatment approach to better meet the needs of a patient? It feels like one where I could easily ramble and lose focus.
Definitely a common trap. The key is to pick a specific situation that shows off your problem-solving skills and your ability to think outside the box. Don't just say you adapted, explain how and why.
Okay, so let's say I had a patient who was resistant to traditional exercises. I might say, I noticed they loved music, so I incorporated rhythmic movements and made the exercises feel more like a dance. That not only got them more engaged, but they actually progressed faster too.
Now that's a great example. You've painted a clear picture, shown your creativity, and most importantly, you demonstrated a patient-centered approach. What if they follow up with something like, what challenges did you face in adapting the treatment, and how did you overcome them?
Okay. I'd need to think a bit deeper. Maybe the challenge was finding the right music, or adjusting the exercises to fit the patient's physical limitations.
Yeah.
I'd have to explain how I researched different techniques, maybe consulted with colleagues, or even experimented until I found what worked.
Exactly. It's not just about having all the answers. It's about showing them your process, your willingness to learn, your commitment to finding the best solutions for your patients. Those are qualities any interviewer is going to appreciate.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered passion and adaptability, but what about those ethical dilemma questions? Those feel like a whole other beast.
They can be tough, but they're also a chance to show off your integrity and your critical thinking skills. Remember, interviewers aren't looking for a right answer. They want to see how you approach complex situations.
So if they ask, can you describe a time you faced an ethical challenge? I shouldn't try to come up with a perfect solution on the spot.
Right. Instead, focus on showing them you can weigh different perspectives, consider ethical guidelines, and ultimately make a well-reasoned decision. Even better, show them you're willing to seek guidance from supervisors or ethics committees when needed.
So I could say something like, I once had a situation where a patient's family wanted to limit their therapy, even though I felt it was in the patient's best interest to continue. I talked with my supervisor and the facility's ethics committee to make sure I was doing the right thing ethically and for my patient.
Now, that's a strong answer. You've shown them you're not afraid of tough situations, that you understand ethical considerations, and that you're willing to seek support when you need it.
Phew, okay. That makes me feel a lot better about those kinds of questions. It's not about having all the answers, it's about showing the right mindset.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key aspect of being an OT, working with patients who've experienced trauma or have mental health concerns.
All right, there's a question here about that.
Yeah.
How do you approach working with patients who may have experienced trauma? It feels especially relevant now with the growing focus on trauma-informed care.
Absolutely. And interviewers are going to want to see that you understand what that means. It's not just about being sensitive, it's about creating a safe and empowering environment for patients who might be carrying invisible wounds.
So what kind of answer would really impress them? It feels like a topic where words can easily fall short.
It's about conveying both competence and compassion. You could say something like, I believe in using a trauma-informed approach which really emphasizes safety choice, collaboration, and empowerment. I work hard to build trust and rapport with patients, validate their experiences, and we work together to create a treatment plan that respects their boundaries and promotes healing.
Wow, that's powerful. You've really articulated the principles of trauma-informed care and shown that you get the importance of that therapeutic relationship built on respect and trust.
Right. And it might even be helpful to give a specific example, obviously, without violating confidentiality. Something like, I once worked with a patient who had a hard time engaging in therapy because of past trauma, but by actively listening, validating their concerns, and adjusting my approach to prioritize their sense of safety, I was able to help them gradually participate and make progress.
Okay, so we've covered passion, adaptability, ethics, and trauma-informed care. I'm already feeling more prepared,
Yep.
and we haven't even touched on RoleCatcher's AI tools yet.
We'll get to those, but before we do, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about some career insights. After all, acing the interview is just the first step. You want to make sure this is the right path for you.
That's a good point. And RoleCatcher's career guide actually has some interesting points about what it's really like to be an OT. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it?
Well, it's definitely rewarding, but it can be demanding too, both physically and emotionally. You're working with people who are often going through really tough times, and you need to be ready to handle that with empathy and resilience.
The guide also mentions that while the job outlook is strong, the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually projects a 16% growth in employment for OTs. There are also challenges with burnout and compassion fatigue.
And that's huge time. Self-care and having a strong support system are so important in this field.
Okay, so it's not a career for everyone, but for those who have the passion and the resilience, it sounds incredibly fulfilling.
Absolutely. And knowing those challenges and rewards can actually help you answer interview questions more authentically. It shows you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for a calling.
So how do we weave those career insights into our answers?
It's all about making connections. When they ask about your strengths, highlight things like empathy, resilience, and problem-solving skills. When you talk about your career goals, mention your commitment to professional development and ongoing learning to avoid burnout.
So it's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about showing them that you understand the realities of the job and you're prepared for both the good and the bad.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next level of interview prep, RoleCatcher's AI tools. Are you ready to see how technology can take your preparation to a whole new level?
Absolutely. Let's dive in and see how it can help us not just answer questions, but really shine.
Okay, so let's unlock the power of RoleCatcher's AI. This isn't about generic tips. It's about personalized guidance for specific job roles.
Oh, okay. Now I'm really intrigued. How does it actually work?
Picture this. You upload the job description for your dream OT job, and RoleCatcher's AI analyzes it, picks out the key skills and qualifications.
Wow.
Then it gives you targeted feedback on your interview answers, shows you where you can improve to match what that employer is looking for.
That's amazing. So it's not just giving me general advice on answering, tell me about your strengths. It's telling me which strengths this particular employer wants to see.
Exactly. It's like peeking into the interviewer's mind.
Mhm.
This AI helps you craft answers that really resonate, so you avoid those generic responses and stand out as a candidate.
And I'm seeing here it even analyzes video practice sessions. So it's not just what I say, it's how I say it too.
You got it. Their Copilot AI gives feedback on your nonverbal communication, things like eye contact, posture, even your tone of voice, because those little cues can make a huge difference.
It's like having a personal coach and a tech assistant all in one. This is wild. But But hold on, we were about to jump back into those interview questions. How does the AI help us with those?
Let's take that question about prioritizing a caseload. It comes up a lot, but the AI can help you go beyond the basic answer. Imagine it finds keywords in the job description, like time management, electronic health records, and patient-centered care.
Okay, so now I know exactly what they're looking for. So instead of just saying, I'm organized and efficient, I can tailor my answer to highlight those specific skills.
Exactly. You could say, I use electronic health records to keep track of patient progress and manage my schedule. I also prioritize tasks based on what each patient needs, making sure urgent cases get attention while still giving everyone comprehensive care.
That's so much stronger. It shows I understand their needs and I have the skills to meet them. Okay, so the AI shows us what they're looking for, but how does it actually help us improve our answers?
Think of it as a personalized feedback loop. You practice answering questions, record yourself, and the AI analyzes your response. It might suggest stronger verbs, highlighting achievements, or even rephrasing things for clarity and impact.
So it's not just telling me what to say, it's teaching me how to say it in a way that's really effective.
Exactly. It's like having a professional interviewer coaching you every step of the way, helping you refine your delivery and make your answers stand out.
This is seriously a game changer. But let's be real. Some questions are just tough no matter how much AI guidance we have. Like, how do you even answer? How do you approach working with patients who may be resistant to therapy?
That's a perfect example of where the AI can help you uncover the nuances. Let's say the job description emphasizes motivational interviewing and collaborative goal setting. The AI would pick up on that and prompt you to work those into your answer. So instead of just saying, I'd be patient and understanding, I would say, I use motivational interviewing techniques to understand the patient's perspective and figure out their goals. Then we work together to create a plan that fits their values and what they want to achieve, which makes them more engaged and motivated.
Exactly. You've gone beyond a surface level response and shown, specific techniques that are valuable in this role.
Okay, I'm seeing the power of this AI. It's not about canned answers. It's about thinking critically, connecting the dots, and tailoring my responses to impress this employer.
Precisely. It's about using technology to put your best foot forward. But remember, AI is a tool, not a magic wand. Your genuine passion, your experiences, your desire to help others, those are what make you unique.
Right. Okay, so we've got the AI, we've got our passion and experience. What else do we need to know to really nail these interviews?
Well, remember those career insights we talked about earlier? Those can play a big part in how you present yourself. Let's say they ask about your long-term career goals.
Ugh, that one always gets me. I don't want to sound like I'm already planning my exit strategy before I even start.
Of course. It's not about that. It's about showing them you're invested in your professional growth. You could mention your interest in specializing in a certain area of OT, maybe getting advanced certifications or even contributing to research or advocacy.
So instead of just saying, I'm not sure yet, I might say something like, I'm really interested in pediatrics, and I'd love to learn more about sensory integration techniques. I'm also passionate about making things more accessible for people with disabilities, and maybe even working on policy changes in the future.
Now that shows vision and commitment. You've shown them you're not just looking for a job, you're looking for a career path where you can make a real impact.
Okay, I'm feeling like I could handle anything they throw at me. But let's be honest, some questions are just curveballs. Like, can you describe a time when you had to advocate for a patient's needs within a healthcare team or system? I don't even know where to start with that one.
That's a great question, and it pops up a lot in healthcare. Remember, it's about your communication skills, your ability to navigate tough situations, and your dedication to your patient's well-being.
So it's not just about being assertive, it's about being a strong advocate.
Exactly. Pick an example where you had to overcome obstacles, maybe negotiate different viewpoints, or even challenge the way things are usually done to make sure your patient got the best care.
Okay, let's say I had a patient who needed a specific piece of equipment that wasn't easy to get. I could say, I had to fight for my patient's right to get a special wheelchair that was crucial for their mobility and independence. I worked with the medical team and insurance providers, even reached out to community resources to cut through the red tape and get my patient what they needed.
That's a fantastic example. You've shown resourcefulness, persistence, and that you're dedicated to your patients. And you focused on the positive outcome. You got the equipment and helped your patient become more independent.
So it's not just about the challenge, it's about the impact of my advocacy.
Exactly. And interviewers love to see that. It shows you're not just going with the flow. You're actively making things better for your patients.
This is making me realize that interview prep isn't just about reciting answers. It's about showing my problem-solving skills, my empathy, my commitment to doing things the right way, and my ability to handle the complexities of healthcare.
You nailed it. And all of those skills are crucial for not just acing the interview, but for actually thriving as an OT.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What else have we got in these RoleCatcher resources?
Well, there's one question that often makes people uncomfortable. How do you approach working with patients from diverse cultural backgrounds?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one and so important these days. It's not just about being polite, it's about genuine cultural competence.
Absolutely. Interviewers want to see that you understand how culture affects people's beliefs about health, their practices, even how they communicate. They also want to see that you're committed to providing care that's sensitive and respectful of those differences.
So it's not enough to say I treat everyone equally. I need to show I'm aware of my own biases, willing to learn about different cultures, and ready to adapt my approach for each patient.
Exactly. This is where your personal experiences can be really valuable. Have you had any cross-cultural encounters that broadened your understanding? Have you taken any diversity training? Do you make an effort to learn about your patients' backgrounds?
Okay, so I might say I'm committed to providing culturally sensitive care, and I know that each patient has their own unique worldview and experiences. I regularly attend diversity training workshops, and I try to learn about my patients' cultural backgrounds to make sure I'm providing care that respects their needs.
Perfect. You've shown that you're not only aware of the importance of cultural competence, but you're actively working to improve your skills and knowledge.
Okay, feeling more and more confident. But before we move on, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, burnout and compassion fatigue. It's great that RoleCatcher's Career Guide talks about these challenges, but how do we address them in an interview? I don't want to sound like I'm already burnt out before I even get the job.
I hear you. But remember, acknowledging the challenges doesn't mean you're giving in to them. It shows you're self-aware and proactive about your well-being, and that's a good thing.
So if I ask about my strengths and weaknesses, I could mention my tendency to be really empathetic and then explain how I've learned to set boundaries and take care of myself to prevent compassion fatigue.
Exactly. You've turned a potential weakness into a strength by showing them you're self-aware and committed to taking care of yourself.
This is making me realize that interview prep is about more than just impressing the interviewers. It's about figuring out my own values, what my strengths and weaknesses are, and what I really want in a career.
That's a great point. And that self-awareness is what will really make you shine in those interviews. When you know who you are and what you want, your passion and authenticity come through, and that makes you a much stronger candidate.
All right, I'm feeling inspired and ready to tackle the rest of these questions. But before we do, let's take a quick break and then come back to wrap up with some final tips and strategies for absolutely rocking that interview and landing your dream OT job. All right, we're back and ready for the final stretch of our OT interview prep. Deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from understanding what makes OT unique to using AI to really personalize our prep.
And we even talked about some of the tougher parts of the job, like burnout and compassion fatigue, because being prepared means knowing the whole picture, right?
Absolutely. You've got to be ready for the good and the bad.
Speaking of challenges, there's one question that always seems to make people nervous, even when they're feeling confident about everything else.
You're talking about the salary question, the one everyone dreads a little.
That's the one. It's such a tricky balance. You don't want to sell yourself short, but you also don't want to scare them off with a number that's too high.
It's a dance, for sure. But remember, it's a conversation, not a battle. The key is to be confident and clear.
Okay, easier said than done. How do we actually handle that? What are your salary expectations question?
Well, first things first, do your research. Check out resources like RoleCatcher's Career Guide, professional organizations, even those online salary websites. Get a feel for what OTs typically make in your area. And don't forget to factor in things like experience specialization and cost of living.
So it's not just about knowing what I'm worth, it's about knowing the market.
Exactly. And once you've done that research, you can approach the question strategically. Instead of giving a specific number, you might say something like, based on my experience and what similar positions are paying, I'm looking for a salary in the range of.
Okay, that feels less like a demand and more like a starting point.
Right. And be ready to back it up. Highlight your accomplishments, your skills, anything that makes you stand out. You could say, I have a lot of experience working with kids who have sensory processing issues, which is a high demand area. Plus, I've developed special training programs for their caregivers.
So it's about showing them what makes me valuable, not just someone to fill a slot.
Exactly. And don't forget, it's a negotiation. If their offer isn't what you were hoping for, don't be afraid to counter. Just like you'd advocate for your patients, you need to advocate for yourself.
That's a good point. Advocating for ourselves is a skill that goes way beyond the interview. It seems like it came up a lot in the RoleCatcher resources.
It does. It's a theme throughout your whole career, from negotiating salary and benefits to fighting for resources for your patients to even speaking up for your own professional development. Being able to say what you need and stand up for what you believe in is crucial.
And it's something a lot of us struggle with, especially early in our careers.
Yeah.
We don't want to come across as pushy.
I get it. But remember, advocating for yourself isn't selfish. It's about making sure you can be your best self, for your own well-being and for the people you're helping.
So it's not just about getting what I want, it's about creating a work environment where I can thrive and really make a difference.
Exactly. And that brings us back to what makes OT so special. It's not just about treating conditions, it's about empowering people to live their lives to the fullest, to do the things that bring them joy.
And that passion, that belief in the power of OT, that's what will really shine through in your interviews.
It's that something special that no AI can replace. It's what will make you stand out and help you land your dream job.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, remember you have the knowledge, you have the skills, and you have the passion. Embrace the challenge, prepare, and let your brilliance shine through.
And you're not alone. RoleCatcher has your back every step of the way. They'll give you the tools and the guidance to navigate those interviews with confidence and find that fulfilling OT career you've been working towards.
So go out there, ace those interviews, and make a difference in the world. One meaningful activity at a time.